Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I am Matt.
I'm Paige.
Today, I'm going to be answering a ton of questions that I've gotten from listeners and followers over the last couple of years that we've never really addressed straight up. A lot of times we'll get asked questions and I'm like, we've answered that. But I can't even remember where we answered it. Like it's at some point during an episode. You know what I'm talking about, Paige? Like we get those questions a lot. It's like, I know we've covered this, but I couldn't even tell you where.
Know where.
Goal is after this episode, maybe the next one as well, that we've got a catalog of all these that you can reference and go back to. Maybe if you need to be reminded of something, or you're in a different phase of your healing, or maybe a different phase of your boundary setting, or possibly walking away from a relationship and you just need clarity. Goal is at the end of this that you've got that. Now, something a little bit different here for the next episode too, maybe more than that. Paige is going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus. The work that we do here is really, really heavy. When we first started the show, we wanted this to be something super positive, and it was going to be us sharing, I think, the brighter aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then it became work that we were doing to help people that were in a place that we had gotten out of. And sometimes it's really painful to go back, and it takes a toll on you on a personal level. And I think that the phase of life that we're in right now with kids and everything else, your time is better spent doing some other things.
Yes.
And it's not goodbye forever by any means.
No.
You get me, which is a consolation prize. It's not a very good one. I'm fully aware that Paige is the star of our show, and that's what makes us special. It's what makes us unique.
There's a lot of pressure, sir.
It's the two of us together, but I think I love your perspective. Speaking of your perspectives.
Yes, I will still continue doing my Friday Pages perspectives. I did skip last week, but I'm going to continue doing them. I think they're good for me, and they're more growth oriented, and I enjoy putting them together. It's just these weekly ones, it's too much for me right now. I've got to take care of my kids and kind of organize and get my life together a little bit before I come back. But I will be back. I'm not going to go away forever.
No, and I wouldn't do it if you weren't part of it. That's boring. No one wants to hear me sit up here. But anyway, just wanted to give people a heads up on that. We've always been pretty transparent, but at the same time, ask for your quiet support through this. You will still get the content that you are used to, just a little bit different. If you're a Paige fan and you're not a Matt fan, that's okay. You can skip the next few weeks. That's totally fine with me. You will not hurt my feelings whatsoever.
I don't know. You're going to give some pretty solid information. So
these questions are really good.
Come on.
These questions are really good that we're going to be answering. Hey, shout out to today's sponsor, SoberLink. If you don't know what SoberLink is, think of it as the world's greatest accountability device that also happens to look like a breathalyzer, because that's what it is. I want you to think of it as an accountability device. If you're someone like me and you're trying to rebuild trust in your relationship, your words at this point don't have a lot of value because we've said all these things. I can't remember how many times I told you, I'll be different this time. I'll be better. I'll be a good man. I've done all these things. But at some point, my actions weren't backing that up and my words were meaningless. SoberLink can help you deliver on that promise because it is an accountability device, truly. You set up a network of people that get alerted every time that you use it, and they're going to know that you're really doing the deal. Each time you use the device, they will get an alert that says, tested negative, however many times you choose to do that throughout the day, so there's no arguments about it. And it's really a gift that you give your loved ones. I can't think of all the times that you were triggered by something I had done and you wanted to ask, hey, are you high, or are you using, are you drunk?
I mean, I still do that sometimes. Let's be real.
And sometimes this can cause a huge fight in the relationship as you're looking at one another and there's not a lot of trust there and you're walking on eggshells. SoberLink deletes that. There's no more fight about it because you've already agreed to this in advance and you're just using it, and it becomes a normal part of your routine and your day. It gives your loved ones space to not to have to wonder and to look for bottles and to go around asking your friends, were you with him last night? Was he actually where he said he was? It's an amazing tool to rebuild trust. And it's going to let your loved one know if they just need to adjust and learn to trust again, or if they were correct and they knew you were drunk because the test even says that you were drunk. It's a really useful tool in that regard. And this thing's legit. As far as technology goes, it's second to none. It has military-grade facial recognition technology. It is tamper-proof. You cannot mess with this thing. They have figured out all the things that guys like me try to do to these things to get around them, and they're 5 steps ahead of you. Don't even try it. They will be alerted if you do try to tamper with the device. And if you're at the point in your relationship where you're done and you're just trying to make sure that your kids are going somewhere safe, it's there for you in those cases too. It is court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada, is trusted by over 200,000 people, and is considered the gold standard in court. Courts know about this. You can get these things written into your custody agreements. SoberLink's a great partner of our show, and they're offering our listeners 50% off a device just by going to our link, soberlink.com/wheels. Enter your email address where you'll be sent a coupon voucher for 50% off a device. Again, that's soberlink.com/wheels. So thank you to SoberLink. And now on to the episode. Back in to answer your questions, sans Paige. And she is okay, guys. I promise you. This work just gets really heavy and people just need a break sometimes. You probably feel this way with your job or anything else that you do. Hobbies, working out. Maybe you ride your bike. I don't know. People need breaks from stuff. And whenever you're a content creator and you're kind of counted on every week, you make do. Luckily, there are two of us, and I will probably go through this at some point as well, and she'll be there for me. And that's why things work between us. These questions are broken out into 4 categories for this episode. Probably be 2 parts to this. And these are some of the best questions that I've been asked over the years, compiled them going back through emails, through DMs. It took forever. But the first set of questions are going to be inside the mind of an addicted man. And I should preface all this by saying that I am obviously not your partner. I'm not your husband, your boyfriend. I'm a different guy. We are independent. One thing I do know, though, is that there are more similarities with people that struggle with addiction than not. And a lot of the stuff I say will probably be applicable. Some stuff may not. So take this with a grain of salt. I'm going to give you a look inside my head and the men that I've come to know over the last nearly 13 years of being in recovery. And I'll do my best to give you some insight. I know that a lot of partners have questions about some things that they can't quite get from their loved one. And hopefully I can be there to validate some of your thoughts, provide you some insight. Let's get this going. Let's see what it is. The first set of questions are going to be inside the mind of someone who's addicted. First question I got: what was going through your head when you were still using? Not a lot. I think that my logic was warped a lot. I was in survival mode. I was feeling a lot of shame. I was feeling, without realizing, I was very, very selfish in a lot of the things that I was doing. Like I loved my wife deeply, and that's never changed. I guess I thought that I should be judged on my intentions rather than my actions. And I don't think that that was even conscious. I think that that's just the way I felt. Like in my heart of hearts, I knew that I loved her and I wanted to do the right thing. And I intended to do the right thing. And I guess I gave that more weight than the way I actually showed up day to day. And I imagine that a lot of people feel this way too. Very, very few people, if any, show up wanting to hurt someone. We just want to feel better. That's really it's that simple for most of us anyway, I would say, is that we just want to feel better. And it's ultimately through that we end up hurting the people that we love the most, more than we even hurt ourselves. We don't set out to do it. And so I wasn't thinking about much of anything other than that my intentions are really what mattered at that point in my life. And I quote unquote had it under control, and I would be okay if I could just get through this next period of my life. And it was always like some next hurdle. If I could just get through this month or this quarter, or if I could get over this promotion or whatever it might be, then everything will be okay. Like I always thought I had to have things in order in my life to get to the point where I would decide to do something about it. But there wasn't a whole hell lot going through my mind, really. It's survival mode at that point when you're in addiction. You're just thinking about, at that point, it's like my next fix. I was thinking about escape. I was thinking about just getting comfortable and just feeling better. That's really it. And Paige wasn't either, she wasn't really enabling and she wasn't really controlling either. But she didn't make it comfortable on me. Like she always judged me by my behaviors and my actions. She always did. My intentions meant very little because I told her more times than I can count. I promise you one day I'll be a good man. I will be better. She's been so good about seeing the world clearly. And that's what I admire so much about her, is that she's always been able to just see through the bullshit and see through the smoke screen. And she also didn't, but I should also say she didn't like shame me and she didn't try to punish me. she was resolute in her values and where she stood and what she wanted in life and what we'd agreed to do in life together. And she was going to keep walking that path with or without me. And I think that I credit a lot of that with why I got sober. She never really tried to control me. She never shamed me too much. You know, I should say that whenever I got disrespectful, there was plenty of, she fought back. Okay. She fought back. Don't get me wrong. But I just want wives to know, like, you can't love someone out of addiction. If that was that simple, no one would be addicted, because it's not for lack of love. But I don't think that you need to become someone that you don't recognize in the process of doing that. And that's really, really tough to split sometimes. Next question. Did you love your wife while you were hurting her? This obviously came from someone desperately seeking answers, that you're not enough, because this is how it feels to the loved ones, right? I must not be enough to get them to change. And I just want to give you the biggest hug in the world when I see this kind of thing, because it's not about that. It's not. We're just trying to feel better and not thinking clearly about who gets hurt in the process. We just don't really give a shit. We're not thinking that hard. We're not. You guys think about this way harder than we ever do, which does not make your feelings wrong. I don't mean to invalidate that for 1 second, because it probably does feel like he's trying to hurt me at this point. It must feel that way, especially after you've been lied to God knows how many times about all of this. I'll be better. I'll you know, this time is different. I'll act right. I've got it under control. So I do think that there's love there. I just think it's a distorted version. Like, the way that I love her now compared to then is different. It is different. For those of you that have kids, you remember what you thought love was before you had kids? It's kind of like that. Like, when you really, truly love something selflessly, where you're willing to give every part of yourself to that thing, to protect it, to make sure that it's okay. That's the kind of love I have for her now. It wasn't like that before. It was more selfish. And some of that's probably because we were younger. Man, I can't help but think that a large part of that's because we were younger. We were in our 20s, remember? 20s. Like, you're still kind of dumb in your 20s anyway. We weren't in our 40s or 50s, and I don't know if we would have made it out if we were, but I have seen couples get through it. It's just very, very few, because there's so much damage that's taken place in all those years. Like, we never fought one time about addiction through our 30s. Not once. It was a period of time in your 20s. We were trying to figure out shit anyway. You're kind of growing up. But yeah, I loved her, just not if I had to go back then, like, I wouldn't call that what I call love today, if that makes sense. It's totally different. Man, it's got to be so difficult on the other side of this. And I've kind of been through this too with family members, but I think having been through addiction, you see it differently because you know what they're going through. Just still doesn't make it okay. Doesn't make it okay. I just want you to know that's not malicious, if that makes sense at all. Don't mistake malice for what is the saying? Oh my God, it's Hanlon's razor, I believe. Don't attribute to malice what can be explained through incompetence. I think that's it. I think it's Hanlon's razor. If not, correct me on that, please. But it's incompetence. It's not malice. It's just incompetence. It's a distorted version of love. And I think in those moments, like, what I would tell anyone is that more than anything in those moments, that you need someone to show up for you. And sometimes that person, the only person that can do that is you, because they're just incapable. They're just incapable of love the way that you understand love and the way that you see love clearly. And, man, Paige never weaponized the addiction against me either. I don't brag on her enough through this. Like, we've been kind of shocked going through this process. I think this is why this is all so difficult at times, is because we only really knew ourselves, and then over the years we've gotten to know all of you and your stories, and we hear from you people. And like, through our Independently Strong course, we've gotten to really know, like, intimately what your lives look like. And it's heavy, man. And I think that oftentimes we don't feel like we should be the people who have voices for everyone. Like, I feel like at times, like, who the hell are we? Like, why are we the ones with the microphones? Like, there's certainly got to be more qualified people out there for this. Because we never got to the point where she was just like petty and angry all the time. We didn't get to that point. She never weaponized it against me. She held boundaries, but she did it without cruelty. And I just can't help but wonder if, when couples get to the point where there's contempt for one another, can you come back from that? I will forever believe in the power of people to persevere and to rebuild. But I wonder about that. Like, how much work does that take? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know. More philosophical, I guess. It's a rhetorical question, something for you to chew on. But, man, I think that there's a lot of people that when you've been made to feel small for so long, like when you've been just beaten down figuratively and sometimes even literally by your partner in addiction, the only way that you can fight back is to feel powerful in some way. And that's by clapping back. That's whenever they make you feel small, you try to feel bigger and you become controlling and petty. And it rarely ever leads to healing. We never got to that point. And so that's why I'm saying, like, why am I even talking? Why are we even talking about this? But I know that we know enough about it on the other side of it to know what did work and what doesn't. But yeah, I absolutely loved her, just not in the way that I would consider mature love by any means. It's very juvenile love, very surface level love. Because what is love really, right? It's sacrifice. It's being selfless. It's thinking of others before yourself. It's thinking about someone else's needs is more important than your own. And by that definition, that wasn't love. That was comfort. It was familiar. It was surface level commitment, but it wasn't real love. I did love her. If you had to ask me, I would have said absolutely. But the way that I love her now is vastly different. It's really different. And so I think it is possible for people in the same relationship to be, one feels like they're truly in love and the other one would say they are, but they're actually not. And I think that that's a really painful realization people come to. I've watched them come to, where they come to understand that they've loved this person, but this person does not love them back. Not in the way that they define love anyway. And that's a reality for a lot of people. Next question, what finally got through to you? I've answered this one several times over the years, but again, I wanted to kind of compile everything so it would all be here. So the next time we get a DM about this or something, we can just refer them to this episode. It's like, hey, we're going to answer that question in that episode. You don't have to go browsing around for these little sidebars of a conversation. It wasn't a perfect speech or it wasn't a perfect boundary or anything like that. It was, I guess it was the loss of access to her softness, that side of her that I loved so much and adored, that fun, vulnerable softness that she had. And this is the point in your relationship where there's still trust and there's still admiration. And I had lost respect and it didn't feel good. It did not feel good. I took that as holy shit. Like, this has gotten serious. I could just look in her eyes. And there's a look in a woman's eyes when you know that they're done and they're not mad at you anymore. They're not like being petty. They're not even like upset. They're just done, like an executioner stare of indifference. And that's the kind of look I was getting back from her. She was making plans on her own to go live her life, and I wasn't part of that. And I didn't get to be part of those conversations. I lost access to the parts of her that you get access to when you're in a relationship with somebody. And that was enough for me. Now, that's not exactly common. I know a lot of people who will take that much further. We have different pain tolerances. And I've always said that I think I have a lower pain tolerance than most people. I wish it were as easy as it was for everyone, like it was for me to get to that point, even though it was, I say easy, it's all relative, right? I know people that have had to burn down multiple marriages and multiple families before they finally got it. I know people who have had to go sit in prison for a while before they finally got it. People who have had to lose quite literally everything, living on the streets before they got to that point. I think that the stigma of addiction is getting better. And I think that we are getting better at talking about this as a normal problem that people face. And that is a good thing. But what I don't want people to lose sight of is the reality that people generally don't change until their consequences dictate that they need to change. It's time plus pain that equals change. It's not, oh, you poor thing, what can I do for you? It's not all the support in the world or all the love in the world, because addiction doesn't give a shit about that kind of stuff. It's consequences that ultimately get people to the point where they feel like they need to change something. And that's pain. Some of us don't get there. Some of us ride it and we die because we don't reach that point. The pain tolerance is so high that we will die before we get to that point. But for the lucky ones, they'll get enough pain where they're ready to change. It's time plus pain equals change. And I was in enough pain for a long enough period of time where I finally decided I don't want to do this shit anymore. I couldn't lie to her anymore. I could not look at the person that I trusted and who trusted me. I think that was it. It's like this person trusts me and I'm lying to them, and I couldn't do it anymore. For a lot of other people, it's going to be more than that. They're going to have to really see actual consequences, because here's the truth about, I'm going to go on a limb and say anyone who struggles with this substance problem is that if we could use a substance, our substance of choice, without consequence, we would do it. And it would be disingenuous not to say that. I think that's true. I really do. I've talked to enough people. I know for myself that if I could do it without any consequences, then why not? It's the consequences that prevent us from doing that again, because it got so bad. So what does that look like for your loved one? I don't know. I don't know. But I know that Paige didn't go scorched earth on me. She just stopped over functioning. She stopped trying to save me. She stopped trying to make excuses for me. And she was just going to go live her life on her own. I've seen other people where they have to set boundary after boundary after boundary, and they have to get kicked out of the home, and they have to see, their loved one go on, live life without them. And they have to see restraining orders and no contact orders before they get ready. It takes what it takes. Man, it takes what it takes. But you don't necessarily need to threaten or scream or perform strength. I think that you have to just remove yourself from the role of savior. And I think that's what Paige had done finally, that got to me, that finally got through to me. And the last question, what made it different this time? Oh, that's like the $1 million question, right? Like, what's different this time? I always ask people that. That's why I always talk about, like when I say talk about SoberLink, like the accountability tool, like you've got to have skin in the game here. What was different about it this time is that I was done negotiating with myself. I was done negotiating with the truth. I wasn't even trying to earn forgiveness. I was just trying to become someone different. I was just trying to become someone that I could be proud of. And the next question I always get here is, well, how do I get him to see that, your loved one? How do I get my husband to get to that point? I don't know your husband. I don't know how high that guy's pain tolerance is, but I know it's probably, he's got more in the tank if he's not changing at this point. And that's the dangerous part. And that's what sucks, is sometimes you've got this fear that if I detach too much, then I'm going to lose them. Like they're going to just, I don't know, without hope, people do scary things. A person without hope is dangerous, So it's like you have to have just enough hope left in that recipe, and you have to have just enough patience left. And I think that you also have to be completely done at the same time, if that makes sense. It's like these are oxymorons, but they can exist together. And I think that's kind of where Paige was. It was her steady but firm presence that kind of gave me clarity. And I became willing to do anything it took to not be the man that I was anymore. That's what did it for me. And that's truly what we mean when we say that you have to want it for yourself, because your sobriety can't be contingent on anybody else, like your wife or your girlfriend or whoever, fiance. It can't be contingent on that, because those are just people, and people change, and she could fall in love with someone else. And then what? Then I go back to being the guy that I used to be. Like, that's contingent sobriety. You're really not doing it for the right reasons, and it's not going to be lasting and fulfilling that way. It's always going to be contingent on how that person sees you and how they respond to you and what you get from them and how much sex you're having and all this stuff that we used to measure. Like, am I worth it? You have to be worth it to yourself. So people have to get to the point where they're so fucking sick and tired of themselves, they're willing to do anything to change and to be better. And they'll hear hope from somebody and they'll follow that path, whatever that might be. That's ultimately what makes it different for people when they finally reach that point. But there is no magic phrase to use. I would have given it to you guys by now that would get someone there. But I know that you could try things that could have one of two outcomes, right? You could try what Paige did. And if you do that, you could get someone to see the error of their ways and to really get serious about changing. Worst case scenario, at least you're going to be okay and your children will be okay. And it becomes about survival at this point. We're going to have Annie, the safe parent, on soon. If you don't follow her, please go check out her IG, Annie, the safe parent, all one word. Annie's got an amazing story about what it means to save yourself and how dangerous it can be to live with someone who is abusive, emotionally abusive or psychologically abusive or physically abusive, because alcoholism and addiction, these are abusive actions. Whether or not you might just think you're hurting yourself, but you're not. You're hurting other people around you, sometimes far worse than you're actually hurting yourself. And at some point, it can drive those people to dark places where they don't want to be here anymore. And they have a better chance than we do at being there for the kids and being the safe parent. So at some point you do kind of have to choose. It's a shitty situation to be in. It's really, really tough. But that's my answer. Okay. Section 2. These questions are about what real change actually looks like. This one I do think I can talk on pretty confidently about what change actually looks like. So this is a pretty common question. What's the difference between real recovery and quote unquote dry drunk? A lot of people hate that term. Just call it what it is, right? Emotional immaturity. I think that's fair, right? Real recovery is kind of the opposite of that. People who are quote unquote dry drunk are going to be controlling, defensive, reactive. They're still operating from that like primal midbrain place, very immature. Recovery is about humility. It's about openness. It's about a willingness to look inward in all things and see how we've played a part in whatever trouble we found ourselves in. I think that you're not going to be able to just put a substance down and get into recovery. It is the work of recovery that makes you part of recovery. And that is truly looking at yourself and saying, how did I get here? What thoughts took place in my mind, in my past that led me to this point? Why am I impossible to be in a relationship with? Why do I fight about everything? Why do I argue about everything? Why does everything always have to be my way? Why can't I see other people as having emotions and ideas and feelings that are as real as mine? Why do I invalidate the people around me? Like, these are questions you have to really be genuinely asking yourself if you're going to have a good relationship after addiction. Most of the time, people in addiction aren't thinking like this. They're just not. And so what you'll get when someone just stops is someone who's just an asshole. Like, they've removed the substance, but nothing else has changed, which is why we will always say it's the behaviors, not the substance. You can sit there and blame the substance all day, every day, but how come when you put it down, you're just as miserable, if not more? Because now we've taken away your pacifier. Now you have no way to cover for all this shit that you've never really dealt with. Your emotional immaturity, your lack of empathy, your inability to be a present partner, parent, to be an equal partner in your relationship and a participant in your life. This shit comes with recovery. That's real recovery. And you can skin that cat any way you want. There are different ways to go about it, but that's what recovery is. Just stopping the substance is just usually going to get you someone who's just irritable and they're just angry because you've taken away their pacifier and they're really not thinking about, well, what would life look like without the pacifier if I could be happy too? That's when you have to start asking yourself the tough questions. And Paige always knew the difference here, man. She always knew the difference. I don't know how. She is so wise. And I don't know how she saw it from the beginning, but she did. She could always see it so clearly. She never confused not drinking with just being healthy. It was always about the behaviors with her. She didn't care about the substances. She cared about the behaviors. And I think that makes sense too. We know plenty of people in our lives who drink, but they're not an asshole. They're not selfish. They're okay. They don't think about drinking that much. Addiction is generally a symptom of something else. We know this. It is a symptom. It is not the problem. It is the symptom. Don't make it the problem. It is a problem, but it is not the problem. So I think that real recovery is looking inward and figuring out why we are the way we are, the nature of us, accepting that about ourselves, and then be willing to work towards something better. And just stopping, like just being sober is not a replacement for that. Next question. What effort that I made showed her that I was serious? I think from the very get-go, even when I was in treatment, I was super engaged with the treatment process. I was very open and willing to trying this new way of life. I had seen it work for other people, and I was incredibly enthusiastic that I could figure this out too. If you're lucky, you will have this magical thought as you're watching someone who has beat this thing and they're happy and they're living useful lives and their kids enjoy being around them and their wives are crazy about them. And you're like, holy shit, that guy figured it out. He found a way out. And you have my friend Steve puts it so beautifully. He's like, he had these two super powerful thoughts. One, what would my life look like if this actually worked? And then he went through that thought exercise and he got really excited. And then he asked himself the amazing question, well, why not me? Why not me? And I, from the very beginning, was asking myself that question, why not me? I'm a Red Sox fan. I grew up a Rangers fan, but I became a Red Sox fan because the New York Yankees in the 90s were amazing. And they used to come to town every summer if the Rangers happened to make the playoffs, and they would just beat the dog crap out of them. And so I learned the best way to dislike the Yankees would be to love the Red Sox. And so I just picked up their rivals, and I've been a fan ever since. But in 2004, the Red Sox ended an 86-year curse of not having a World Series title. And that was their motto that year, was like, why not us? Like, curse, no curse, all these ghosts that follow us around every postseason. Like, why not us? Like, what rule book is there that says that we're not allowed to win this thing, that we can't be happy, that we can't reach the promised land? And I think you kind of have to ask yourself that same question. And so I was really, really relentless about that, and very, very consistent about that and pursuing that life. And so when I got out, I was told, like, hey, dude, you need to go to an IOP program. And I had just been in treatment for 30 days. I had no interest in doing another 90 in IOP. And it was a huge time commitment. It was like 3 hours a night. You know, we had a 9-month-old daughter at home. I wanted to go home, and I just wanted to live a normal life. I wanted to just kind of, I don't know, I thought I would just coast on what I'd learned in treatment, but I was relentless. And I think that made her feel more comfortable that I was willing to do that. And I was actually willing to do that. This wasn't performative. And I went through 90 days of IOP, and every night that I was in an IOP, I was going to a 12-step meeting, and I had a sponsor, and I was working through the material with him. I would stay at his house sometime until, you know, he had kids, I had kids. And the one time we could get together was like late at night. It'd be like 9 o'clock when I would get over there, and he'd be putting his kids down, and then we would be up on his patio till sometimes 2 a.m. And I would get home like an hour drive from our house at 3 a.m. And then I'd be up at work the next morning at 7. And like that was rinse and repeat for first 4 months or so. Like I was doing that on a pretty regular basis, not every week, but probably every other week, every 2-3 weeks or so. I don't know. It was regular, and going to meetings and like really talking about this stuff too. Like I was interested in it, and like, you can't fake that. I was interested in being a better person, and I was interested in learning about her experiences too. I was really interested in that. Like I became obsessed with being a better man. I became obsessed with being a better person, about what growth looked like. And I stayed humble through the whole deal. I've never once felt like I was better than anyone else. 13 years later, I'm no better than the person in your life that's still using. I'm just a guy who has a little more experience on the other side, but like our nature is the same. And I have always believed that. And I've always just been, I don't know, down to earth about it, never cocky. I think that Paige appreciated that. And like I said, it wasn't performative, but it made her feel secure to know that like, oh shit, he's taking this seriously. Like he's actually honoring my experiences here and what I had to go through. And I think that made her feel good. And another thing I don't brag on Paige enough, but dude, she was always so supportive of it too. And that's why I say that contempt can be such a dangerous thing for a relationship. Neck hurts. Or a marriage, because when I would come home from meetings, she was still interested in knowing what I was learning. She was interested in recovery. She was interested in what we could become. She was excited about our future. We didn't feel like it was over. And I don't know if you come back from it once you both kind of know it's over. Maybe you like delay the inevitable for a while, but she was really supportive, and she couldn't fake that either. I would come home and we would talk for hours about this epiphany that I had just had about how selfish I really am, and like, holy shit. And I am so sorry. And I cannot believe I acted that way. And like, we're really connecting as we're seeing each other. And I'm being vulnerable with her, and she's being vulnerable with me. And that requires a level of trust that you can't fake. And we were just on the same page. And I think that made her know that that let her know I was really serious about all this. And that's why I always say, like, that's the standard that I would like to set for guys out there that are trying to do this deal. I know that it works. I know that works. Are there other paths that work? Maybe, but how do you make someone feel really safe about their decision to give you another shot? That's the way. But Paige always acknowledged my effort, and I would implore anyone who is actually trying to rebuild this thing, and you really do still think that there's a chance you could be happy and there's not too much pain, and like, acknowledge each other's efforts. At the very least, do that. Like, when did saying thank you, or I appreciate you, or I see you, or like, that must be really tough and I'm proud of you, when did that go out of style? Being nice to each other, man. I don't know if it ever should. But I understand contempt and where it comes from, and I get that. But shit, man, I know that a huge huge motivator for me was knowing that like there was a positive reinforcement loop there whenever I would come home and after a late night meeting. And yeah, she would have to sacrifice more time and, without me there. And we had a 9-month-old little girl at home, and that's a lot. That's a lot. And she had some way to put that aside for a moment and to hold space for this journey that I was on. And it chokes me up thinking about it. How she did that, I don't know, man, but it meant everything to me. It did. And I think that you just have to have enough patience left for that to happen. I don't think that you can fake that. And I think there is a such thing as being done. Next question. How do you rebuild trust when you broke it? Well, I never asked for it. I never begged for it. I never told her that I deserved it or that I was owed it. I think it was just one uncomfortable conversation and one new action at a time, over time. It's these little tiny drops of liquid into the bucket of trust that fills it back up. It's lost, and you can pour out a bucket so fast, but to fill it up drop by drop takes years. And I think that you just do it little by little by slow. It doesn't happen all at once. And I think that we would love for it to work that way. That's just not the way it works. It's little by slow. We rebuild trust. And I think it was also possible because like Paige definitely said her piece more than a few times. Like she would let me know when something I had done like was fresh on her mind, and she would let me know how that hurt. She would let me know that she was struggling too. She would let me know. And that was hard to hear, but I needed to hear it, man. That's necessary pain. You got to be ready to fucking deal with that. Like, come on. Like you have to be able to hear that kind of stuff from people at the very least. But she wasn't dragging the past into every single moment. And this is again where I think that contempt comes up. But she also didn't pretend like stuff never happened either. Like we didn't pretend like I didn't lie for years. And she would let me know in moments when I was doing the right thing. And all that does is just make me want to do it more, But she would also let me know that there was still work to be done. And she was just so good about working the two. And I don't think that she was doing it intentionally. I think that she's just such a sweet person, just by her very nature. She's so trusting and kind. And she gave me the benefit of the doubt. And then again, this was my first time in rehab. This was my first time coming clean with this. You're not a bad person if you've gone through this 30 times and you don't think you have that left anymore. And I think that's what sets our show apart, is it will tell you that's okay. Like, why wouldn't that be okay? Show me in the rule book where you have to get shit on forever, put yourself up to it again and again and again when your body knows the difference. Trust doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to be naive again. It just means that you're building new data based on new behavior. And I guess you give yourself permission to do that, if that makes sense. But you have to be willing to pull that too when you see the opposite. It's a fine line, I guess. Next question. This is a good one. I actually didn't know how to answer it earlier. See if I can do it. What does accountability actually look like day to day? That's a good question. I think early on it was actually, you know what? Maybe not even early. I think this might be the answer. Catching my own bad habits before she did. Calling myself on my shit before she did. So if your loved one is doing this, that's a good start, I would say. But if you're still having to catch them all the time, they're not looking at themselves hard enough, in my estimation anyway. No one's going to be perfect at this. Like you won't either, listener. But I think that's a hallmark of someone that's really trying to show up and be accountable. Is they're catching themselves before you do. And this could look like something extremely mundane, like me committing to being a more equitable partner in our home with either raising our kids and taking more of that on, or dealing with simple things like the trash. And it could be like me walking in and going through the motions that I'm used to, which is like throwing my bag down and sitting on the couch. And before I realize it, Paige is already mad because she's holding a screaming toddler. The trash can is full. And it's me jumping up and saying, shit, I'm sorry. Bad habit. let me grab her, or let me take the trash out first and then I'll grab her. And it's like catching myself before she yelled at me. I would call myself on it. Like, I totally see what you're saying. And it's like rebuilding those little things over time takes time. Rebuilding bad habits doesn't happen like overnight. But I think that to her was like, oh, he gets it. Like, that's new. He said it before I had to. Or if you don't want to say it, I didn't sit here and have to hold this resentment that this MFer isn't trying, and like text my friend that he's still a shithead. Like, I didn't give her that option. I did it myself. I'm going to call myself on my shit before you will have to call me. And I made a real concerted effort to do that. And I would also allow her to say whatever she needed to say. Like, I allowed her to heal on her terms and on her timeline. I never asked that she forgive me. I never asked that she forget things or not talk about certain things or not bring certain things up because it brought me shame. Ever. We had an open floor where she could say whatever she needed to say. And I was there to be there to hear it and to understand it deeper. And it helped me in a lot of ways really understand how badly I'd hurt people. And that pain helped me from going back to the way I used to be. And it also brought us closer as a couple where I could really start to empathize with what I'd put her through and what that must have been like living with me. And it made me appreciate her that much more and our marriage and relationship that much more. And the gift that she was giving me and giving me another shot. That's accountability too, as someone who's allowing you to share your experience openly without getting defensive or, yeah, but you did this if you weren't this way, or if you didn't say this, or I never did that ever. And like, even when I would screw things up, like, she didn't rub my face in it. But she didn't let me know it was okay. Like, she didn't pretend it was okay either. She would just like calmly and firmly treat me like an adult and allow me to respond and trust that I would respond the right way. And most of the time I did, not every time. And I don't brag on her enough for that, man. She handled it like a pro. She really did. And Paige didn't need me to be perfect. I don't think she ever needed me to be perfect. I think she just needed honesty. And I think that was the biggest piece of it, was the honesty. And that's what made it safe enough to move forward, was having that honesty. Like, I have not told her a lie since April 11th, 2013, when I lied about the money that had come out of the ATM machine in Las Vegas. That's the last time I lied to my wife about anything. And she knows that I can't lie anymore. And she knows that because I've lied. I've told the truth about things that it'd have been easier to lie about. It really would have. We even had a therapist tell us at one point, like, maybe there's some things you don't need to tell your wife. And I'm like, I don't like that. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. If that means that I get yelled at or she's mad at me, then so be it. But I'm not lying. I just will not do it. And that's what accountability looks like on the day to day. It's calling myself on stuff. And I think, like, with my program, I never put her in a position where she was having to babysit it or anything. I was very consistent with that. I was working on it. I was telling her, like, that she was always involved in it sort of with me. As I learned something, I would talk to her about it. As she learned something, I would listen. And so we were growing together and we held space for one another. But there was always a topic that was discussed. And so I don't think there's only been a handful of times where I've come home and had like a bad day. And she'll, like, she doesn't do this anymore, but she would like look back at me and she's like, when's the last time you went to a meeting? And that's her way of saying, you should probably do something about this, because I sense there's something much deeper going on inside of you that kind of concerns me. And you could make us all feel a little more assured if you would just go to a meeting. And like, that was her way of saying that. And I knew what that meant. And there's been a couple of times she's had to remind me, like, hey, dude, you got a program to work. You should do that because you're a lot more enjoyable when you do. But that's kind of how we built accountability. I think it's just catching myself, like calling myself on my shit before you have to. It's just easier that way and helps build trust with people too. Okay. The next set of questions, there's 3 of them. This is advice for wives who are waiting. This is probably the majority of our listeners. And this is a loaded question that I'm kind of afraid to answer, but I'm just going to be honest, like I am with Paige and everyone else in my life. I'm just going to be honest. Is it worth waiting for a man to change? I think that age matters. I think that we generally are more apt to change the younger we are. I find that when people are older, they are more set in their ways and they are more reluctant to change. Um, I think that you can also go through enough bad times together that the good times just aren't really worth it anymore. There can be stuff that happens that is so traumatic in your relationship that you can probably never really get past. And so you have to decide if that's the kind of happy you want, or do you just want to try something else? But is it worth waiting? I think it depends. Is this person changing, or are they just promising to change? I think that's a huge difference too. Are they actually changing and you're just waiting to see like this finished product? Or are they just promising to change? If someone's just promising to change, what is that? That's nothing. That's nothing. That's like people who say the check's in the mail. You know, I've had customers tell me that a million times. That check never arrives. I think that in rare circumstances, is it worth waiting for? And I would not have answered this question that way when we first started our show. I would say absolutely, it's worth it. But I have come to understand that there are less dudes that do what I did, and there are more dudes that do the opposite, and they make life a literal living hell for people. And I have had to watch what spouses go through on the other side of this in the worst forms. And I don't know how you could ever come back from that. Would I wait for that personally? Nope. I know that Paige wouldn't either. I think that we were young. We had a lot more good times in our past than bad. And I think that we were both in a stage in our lives where we were kind of growing up anyway. If I'm like in my 40s or 50s and it's been bad for 20 years, am I going to wait on someone's promise? Personally, no, I will not. Like, that is nuts. Like, what does the pattern say, right? That's just my take. Just mine. Maybe that makes me a monster. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that just makes me honest. I think that that's just the truth of this thing, is that very few people are going to actually do the work to change. Very few people. Many more are going to performatively change. Many more are going to promise to change. Many more are going to give a short-lived, half-ass effort, but to actually change the way that you deserve, that would rebuild this thing, very few will do it. They're out there. Don't get me wrong. I hope you know the difference. Hope you know what to look for as we kind of talk through this. But Paige wasn't even going to wait forever. And our story wasn't as bad as a lot of them that I've heard. She made decisions, though, based on evidence. And I think that's kind of what you have to do at some point. Decisions based on your own safety. And you are not a bad person for holding on for somebody. I will say that too. I don't mean to demean or make anyone feel like they're an idiot. You're not wrong for that. That's, you just don't, you don't need to stay if you're just going to bleed out slowly. I think you just have to recognize that. All right. Next question, kind of similar to one earlier, but how do you know when he's serious? Okay. Is he open to feedback? That's a good question. Is he open to feedback? Or is this person just trying to manipulate your emotions? Is their recovery conditional? And is it conditional on things like sex or intimacy? That can be a big one too. Are they only willing to change to the degree that you are willing to change is another one that that's a red flag. It's the red flag guy from TikTok around here. You ever seen that guy? It's hilarious. Get him one around here. But Paige never got pulled into like, he's trying, quote unquote. It's like when you know that the trying's not real. And I think that you know the difference. If you're asking the question, then it's probably not real because you just know. You know when someone's being real, like when you're being sold. You know them better than I know them. You know what real change looks like. You're going to see pretty drastic changes. It's extreme. It's not just like little bullshit here and there. Like you're all in or you're not. And I would just look for ownership without having to prompt them. I would, and it's not about perfection either, but I just don't think that you have to really babysit it when you know it's real. Next one. What do you say to the woman that's holding it all together? Man, this is $1 million question. I should have thought about this harder. I can't believe I wrote this one down. Didn't really make notes on it. God, man, this is why our show exists. And we didn't think it would. We didn't think this would be the point of it all, the whole purpose of what we do here until the wheels fall off. But it's become that. I have met some of the most amazing, strong people that I've ever known in my entire life in the last 3 years. I've come to know you people, most of you women, and how strong you are. And I mean that. The things that you've endured and you still managed to get up out of bed and put yourself together and put one foot in front of the other and carry on is the most admirable thing I've ever seen in my life. you're so strong, but you shouldn't have to be this strong. I think you carry so much and with so little help, and you've never made excuses. You've just asked for help. And this not too much to ask, man. My fear has always been that our listeners and people who are holding on are going to lose their spark and their light. Like, that scares me so bad because there's just so much beauty in so many of you. And I'm just always been scared that you're going to lose your innocence and your vulnerability and your spunk, and the world would be a darker place if you did. I would just encourage that you hold on to that in some way, if that's even fair to ask. I don't know if it is, but you're never alone when you're with us. You're never alone when you're part of our Facebook community or Independently Strong. And this is a great time to plug Independently Strong. If you don't know what that is, Paige and I built a course with a licensed therapist, Dr. Christopher Taylor, and it walks you through the process of reclaiming yourself. One of the number one things that people feel when they find us is like, I feel heard for the first time. And there used to be this person inside of me, and I don't know where they went, and I'm scared, and I don't know how to get them back. For so long, I've been holding on. I've been in survival mode, and I don't know where she went. In our course, part of it's going to talk about the relationship itself, and it's going to kind of run you through. A lot of people don't think it's bad as it really is. And so we're going to do an inventory of your relationship, and you are going to come to some truths that you maybe not have wanted to look at before, but you're going to do it safely. You're going to do it with us and other people that are going through it. We're going to walk you through what addiction is, what it isn't, what real recovery looks like, what are boundaries, how do you set those things, how do you hold those things, what's an appropriate boundary. We're going to talk about self-care and how to recenter your focus to yourself, to your children, to your immediate family, to the things that really truly bring you joy. And at the end of it, our goal is not that you leave a relationship. Our goal is not that you just stay together. Our goal is that you make a choice from a place of surety and strength and not fear. That's our goal. We've got community meetings that meet once a week. Paige and I, if not both of us, one of us are usually part of those. So you get access to us, kind of get to spend like an hour and a half or so with us. Typically they're an hour, but they go over a lot. And we're totally cool with that. It's fun. We love our Independently Strong crowd. And you can get 75% off that course if you go to our website, twfo.com, and click on program. You will find it and put in the discount code Wheelies75 and get 75% off that course. But it's made for the woman that's holding it all together, and man too. We have plenty of men that are working through it, and they're finding themselves again. And part of it's through the actual course itself, which the program we believe in wholly. We built it with a licensed therapist. So it's, we have a clinical architect that helped us build this thing. So it's not just us spewing bullcrap that we think. He vetted it and he's renowned and he knows what he's doing, and he's a true professional. And then it's got our take on things. And Paige is the majority of the program. I have like one or two sections in there, but it's amazing. It's amazing, but it's really made for the person that's holding it all together and they're not really sure what to make of themselves anymore, or what they look like at the end of this deal. I think that if someone's not building with you, it's okay to let it fall apart. I think that there's a time and a place to hold on for dear life and to be there with someone through, in sickness and in health and all the vows and stuff that are oftentimes weaponized. But there's a time and a place for that. There's also a time and a place to take care of yourself. And you know when you've hit that point, when you don't know what else to do and you have to look at alternatives. And that's what the course is there for. And we've found people that have found their way as a couple to be stronger than they ever imagined in working through this stuff together. We also have people that were able to leave a relationship and they've never been happier. It is what you make of it, because the point of it is so that you can reclaim yourself and identify what your values are. So you're living a life of your choosing, and you're not just living by the whims of someone else and the whatever they decide to do that day. But man, my heart goes out to every single listener and every single woman that reaches out, and as they're holding this all together, and men too, fewer of them. You guys are out there, and I see you. You're just a minority. Doesn't mean that you're any less. I'm just saying. Usually talking to women here. You guys are amazing. You've taught me so much, and you I think we found our purpose in a lot of ways. Like, you guys deserve a voice, and we will be that voice for you. When you can't be that voice for yourselves, we will be there for you. We will fight for you. We will continue to speak for what is right. I will continue to hold men accountable and to try to get them on the path of right, whatever that looks like for them. I just want you to know that you're not alone. You are not alone through this. You have us, you have other people going through it, and it's okay. And you're not alone. And you don't have to feel shame for the situation that you're in. You are deeply loved and admired. And I think that you're awesome, every one of you. All right, last section here. Section 4, male immaturity and emotional growth. Again, I'm not sure why I'm the expert on this. I don't know. It's kind of scary. I don't think that I'm qualified for this, but I'm going to give it my best. Why are so many men emotionally mature? That is a loaded question. And I can give you probably several different answers in a rambling statement. I think that a lot of men especially from my generation, maybe a little bit older too, I think there's this like mama boy syndrome, these mama's boys that were brought up to think that women exist to serve them, and they don't know how to have a real relationship with the woman that's not sort of transactional, where it's like, I give you something and then you give me something, whether that's like I provide for the home financially and then you sleep with me whenever I want you to. I don't think that there's a lot of men that really look at women as like, God, human doesn't sound right, but that's almost the word I want to use, like as like another person that deserves the same respect and admiration, and if not more than anyone else in their life. I think that for a lot of us, though, I think it was never really modeled. I don't think that it was really modeled. I love the show Ted Lasso. And if you're a guy listening to this and you've never seen the show, watch it. I think it's got more healthy examples of masculinity, in my opinion, than anything I've ever seen on TV. The characters that don't have it stick out like a sore thumb, but I think it is men who are modeling what I think is healthy masculinity. And I think that there are a lot of men who are emotionally mature because A, it was never modeled and they were able to get away with it. They were raised by a generation of women and men who didn't exhibit any of that sort of thing. I think that they think that their job is to be a protector and a provider, and it stops with that. I think that what it means to be a man has evolved tremendously, and we just haven't done a good job at keeping up. I don't think we've held each other accountable. I don't think that our fathers and mothers and elders have really held us accountable. I don't think that media holds us accountable. I think that we just get away with a lot of shit, and like people seem to be okay with the status quo, or they want to go back to the way that things used to be, as opposed to kind of evolving. And like, no one's trying to take your manhood from you. They're just asking you to do more. And like, I think that's great. I think it's amazing. But I think that vulnerability was taught as weakness for a lot of men. And so to be vulnerable, they never did. When you're younger, you're not allowed to cry. Boys don't cry. You get slapped around and made fun of and teased for crying. Not to say that we have feelings like everyone else does, sometimes bigger than you guys. Women, I mean. We just don't know how to express them. And you bottle that shit up and it expresses itself in violence and anger or addiction or any number of things, but it's not really, it's not okayed at a young age. And I think that that's a problem. But immaturity is not your cross to bear, you, the listener. I think that it's his job. It was my job to grow the fuck up, to put it bluntly. I think that so many men struggle with being emotionally mature, and they've got their excuses, but I've seen every one of them. I have seen it enough times where I have to believe it to be true for some, that it has been used as a weapon against them when they did open up. Like they did open up to say a woman who was also immature, and they used it against them. They made fun of them. They teased them about opening up about something that they were scared about, whether that meant they were jealous about something, if they were scared about something, if they didn't know how to handle something and they felt depressed or they felt weak, insecure, any number of things. Like, these are normal human emotions, and everyone should be allowed to have them and discuss them with someone who's safe. And if that person's not your spouse, what are we doing here? So don't weaponize that stuff against people. It's tough to open up as it is, but it is not women's job to raise us. I think that us men need to do a better job at holding one another accountable, and also celebrating when we do see men displaying some kind of emotional maturity. And I plan to do that. I'm trying to do that with some of my new content. I'm doing my absolute best to try to bring guys in in a way that's not corny or hokey or preacher like, and just let them know like, bro, I'm just like you. I know how you're feeling. I went through the same shit, and here's how I dealt with it. But it's rampant, man. There's so many guys that struggle with this. There's so many guys that kind of like the status quo of the way that things used to be, where there's like this power imbalance where like men were more powerful and women were less. And that's just not the way that things work anymore, or should ever have worked. Like, men and women are obviously different. The only people that disagree with that are sociologists, but like, we're different. We bring different things to the table. A lot of times we're wired in different ways, and like, they're complementary and they work really well together. Like, whether you have a traditional marriage where you've got traditional roles where you stay home and you take care of the home and domestic stuff, and like they go to work and they do all that stuff outside the home. I think that when you guys get home, you need to celebrate each other's worlds. I think that you need to be open with each other. You need to be vulnerable, and you need to have real conversations, because what is intimacy if it's not that, you know? And I think just a lot of men struggle with it. I don't think they know how. I don't think they know how to really talk, but it's not an excuse. You better fucking figure it out. It's not that difficult. It's really not. Like, I struggle with this when I talk to guys that don't know how to open up, and it's almost like you have to pry it out of them. And it's like, I don't know what you think. Did you think that it was, you were protecting something by acting strong all the time, or being tough all the time, or getting angry when you didn't know how to express you were scared? Like, that's, we've got a lot of work to do, but I don't even know if that's a ramble of an answer, but that's why I think that so many men are emotionally immature in a nutshell, because it's never really been modeled. But I see that changing, and I see that heading in the right direction. And I hope that we get to the point where we're raising a generation of men right now, who are young boys, you know, in elementary school, middle school, that won't struggle with that same sort of thing. You know, we will lose more men this year to suicide than we will lose women to breast cancer. There's a reason for that, because it's not like we don't have feelings. We don't know how to express them, and we don't feel safe when we do. And it's not the world's job to make sure that we feel safe. It's up to us to know that we matter enough to be able to speak up for ourselves and advocate for ourselves, and know where to turn, and know that there's going to be another guy there or another woman there who will listen to you. I just don't know when we got so far away from that. It's like, I think there are a lot of guys who get so tied up in this protector role that they act like they don't have any problems. And we do have problems. I think a lot of guys also really struggle with, and I get this one too. We struggle. We don't want to be a burden to anyone. We don't want to burden anybody. Like, we are supposed to be invisible in a lot of ways. We're supposed to keep our mouths shut and just provide and be stoic and quiet and let our wives make most of the decisions. And I think the danger in doing that is like, that's just not the way that humans are wired. Like, that's a false role that we've kind of put ourselves into, but there's nothing real about that. We need to know it's okay to speak up, open up, talk, and that's going to take a long time to fix. But things are changing, man. There's a great book called Of Boys and Men. Richard Reeves wrote it. I encourage any guy to read this, or any woman. Even talks about like what's going on with men, like what's up. And Reeves has got a bunch of great appearances on podcasts and things like that, where he talks about it. He's an advocate for men's mental health. Like I think that so many dudes struggle with thinking that they need to be the rock all the time, and you don't want to be a burden to anyone else, and you're supposed to take on other people's burdens. You're not supposed to burden them, but like, that's not, it's just not realistic. Like, you're going to have issues like everyone else. This is a tough world we live in, man. And we need to be there for each other. So, hey, if you're a guy and you're struggling and you don't know who to talk to, and you feel like you could reach out to me, do it, man. I'm there for you. Matt, MATT at TWFOcouple.com. Be happy to have a convo with you. Lend an ear, let you know that you're not crazy for feeling the way you feel at the very least. All right. So next question. Sorry, I got off on that one too far. What helped you grow up emotionally? I think it was pain and consequences. Honestly, I think it was finally getting over the fear that if I actually tried, let me back up. I've always kept the bar incredibly low, because it meant that I couldn't fail. And for the first time ever, I raised the bar to a point where I would actually have to put forth some effort to meet it. And I think that it was pain, consequences, and ownership that got me there. And I've never been afraid to express how I felt. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care if you think I'm a huge pussy. I don't care If you think I don't fit the traditional role of masculine, I don't give a shit. Like, you're not hurting my feelings for 1 second, dude. I don't care. Like, I have scrapped with dudes in a parking lot and thrown fists, and I have cried with them in coffee shops, and I have no shame in between. Like, I don't see why it has to be all or nothing. You know what I mean? But I just, I think it helped having Paige, who's an incredibly sensitive person, around. Let me feel safe in that space, and being around friends that I grew up with. I just got lucky. I've got really awesome friends, and we have deep, meaningful conversations. And then when I got into recovery groups, that's what we talk about as guys, like real shit. And it became like cool to talk about that kind of stuff and to express yourself in those ways. And it wasn't something that we teased anyone for. You know, it became like a really cool thing. It was a cool thing to be an emotionally mature man. And that was awesome. But I think that ultimately what causes anyone to change, it's going to be pain and consequences. That's what got me to the point where I was like really ready to do it. Were you did I write this down wrong? What were you afraid of in being vulnerable? I think that I don't think I've ever really struggled with it. I am who I am, and like, I like me. I don't care if you do. I like me. So I'm cool with whatever I put out there, I guess. Like, you can't be afraid to be cringy to make content like we make, or to be on camera and say what you think. Like, people say all kinds of mean shit. Some dude recently, what did he say? I got to find it. Hang on. Give me a second as I scroll through my messages. It cracked me up so bad. This dude took the time out of his day to just write fucking loser on this video that I'd made. And like, I don't care, man. Like, I crack up at the fact that some dude took time out of his day. Like, I got under his skin and triggered him so bad that he wrote that message, and that I didn't lose sleep over it. I don't care. Like, I don't care. I think that part of that has just kind of always been in me. But I think what I see more from my friends and other people in recovery is you feel like you're going to lose respect in some ways from other men and women too, that you're going to look weak, or that you're going to be abandoned, because if they knew who you really were and what was really going on with you, then they wouldn't want anything to do with you. No one in my life has ever made me feel pathetic for opening up, and I will forever be grateful for that. Truly, I will. And I hope that you would never feel like that, or you would treat anyone else like that. I think our listeners are better than that. I think if people feel like they can't safely be themselves or say what they need to say, then that's when bad shit happens. You know, I think that happens to spouses and partners. And that's why our show and our community, our free Facebook community, is important, because you get to do that kind of stuff and you don't have to feel pathetic for it. People get it. You're in the land of nodding heads as everyone understands what you're going through. But I think that having Paige around to let me do that safely was huge. Like, she thinks it's attractive. She actually thinks it's attractive that I can balance, like, I can come in sweaty and dirty after fixing broken sprinkler head or something like that, and then come in and talk to our daughter about her dance class and like technique and how she struggled and she cried because she couldn't get this part, and I'm listening to her. Like, she thinks that is the most attractive thing in the world, that I can walk between those two worlds. And I think that every guy can. And I don't think that, like, there's no rule book that says you can't. That's what being a man is now, I think, in 2025. It's being able to skirt those two things. Like, don't lose what makes you a guy. Like, we like to get dirty and play fight and do all that kind of shit. That's just who we are. And there's no rule book that says you can't still be those things and also be this emotionally engaged person either. I think that knowing more men like that and being around them made it cooler for me. And like, I think that removed a lot of the fear that was there in those early days of being vulnerable. But I think that if you're a wife on the other side of this and you've got someone who's trying to open up, just be soft with them, be kind, consider it, understand it's a tough thing. Don't be cruel about it. Doesn't mean you can't be honest, but don't be cruel. And if you're a guy trying to open up, like, there's a right and a wrong way to go about this too. Like, if you're going to open up, make it about you, not them. I see a lot of guys who try to get open and vulnerable, and they're just, it's them blaming someone else for their problems and it's disguised as like being vulnerable. That's not what we're talking about, dude. It's about like owning the way that you feel about something. Okay. Last one here. What does healthy masculinity look like now? So this was almost going to be like a totally separate show of its own. I think that masculinity's evolved so much. I really do. I think that what it was at one time is like this Neanderthal version of just like be strong and stoic and dome. Like be ready to fight anyone that challenges you and never back down, and you're the man, so you're in charge and you're the leader. And I think all that's pretty much bullshit. I think that every person is different. I don't think that these are gendered attributes by any means. I know plenty of women who are amazing leaders, women that I would vote for, women that I would stand next to in war. I've met them all. I've come to know them through TUFO and even in my job. Like, I don't think those are gendered things. I think that we need to do away with that. And just, I think that you can be strong without dominating other people. I think that there's a way to do that. I think that humility is a huge part of what I think it means to be a man, to be humble. And humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. And I think that any good quote unquote leader is doing that. I think that they're more concerned with the outcome, the more utilitarian thing. And that's what's best for the group, not just best for them. And I think there are plenty of guys who think that they make policy, they make what's best for them. And that's just the way that things should be because they're a guy. And I think that's stupid. Show me where that came from. Right. And don't tell me it's biblical because I just disagree, wholly disagree. And I will fight you on that all day long. That is bullshit. I have never been kicked out of any circle because I'm not masculine enough. And I can sit here and talk to you about the Stoics and poetry and recite all kinds of interesting literature. And that doesn't make me soft either. Dude, like I will beat the shit out of you with the book of poetry. You can do both, you know? I think that, yeah, being a leader without any ego is a huge part of that. I think that you have to be able to be consistent without having applause. And that means doing things for the right reasons that you believe in, sticking by your values. I think that that's a huge part of being like a man, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that Paige ever needed a hero. She just needed a partner in life. And I think that's who I became. And I think I've seen plenty of other men do this very thing. I just left a meeting actually at a treatment center. I've been going up here for 11 years, volunteering 3 or 4 times a month to help patients that are struggling, just give them hope that things can get better. And I go up there with this guy who looks like a fucking prison enforcer. Like he fits the definition of like what you think a man's man would look like. Like he is jacked, man, jacked, huge guy. He could break someone in half in 2 seconds. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, covered in tats. He's a tough son of a bitch. And we sat there in front of a group of probably 50 people and he broke into tears tonight talking about things. It doesn't mean that he still won't break you in half, but he's humble enough to know who he really is and what really moves him. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think that's what masculinity is to me. I don't even know if I love the term masculinity. Like I know that men and women are different, but like, I think you just need to be you. And if you're a guy that happens to be masculine for you, I don't know why we have to try to work ourselves in these weird little boxes. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me on that. But I've been told by more than a few people that message needs to be out there more, and there aren't enough guys talking about this kind of stuff. And so I'm going to do my best to do that because I know for a lot of guys, it is a battle to not know where you fit in anymore because roles are changing. You know, women are going to school. They're getting into career fields they never have before. They're getting really high up on the executive ladder, and men kind of feel like they've been pushed out. And like when there's also, you know, there's like neo-feminist movement where they don't feel like that men have a purpose in society. And I don't think that that's true at all. I think that's ridiculous. I think I understand where that comes from, but I don't think it's true. And I know that there are a lot of men who feel like they're kind of pushed out and they're angry and they're fighting back and in all the wrong ways. I think that, again, I think we work incredibly well together in general. This is kind of how we evolved, and it's a system that works. I think the social constructs that we've put around it have kind of fucked it up because we've evolved faster than those constructs did. And so we just have to evolve with it. Doesn't mean it's the end of men and women. I think it's just the end of that construct. If it's served its useful purpose, I don't think it's all bad, but I don't think it's all good either. And I think there's some new ways we can look at things that are more fitting for the times, man. Yeah. And I hope that something I say at some point can help someone along the way. I hope that with this episode, I've given you guys some answers that can to help. And I just want to know that to the woman listening to this, that you matter. You matter in this equation, your clarity and your choices. The example that you set are ultimately going to shape your outcome. Paige wasn't just a bystander in my recovery. She was an active participant, but I think more than anything, she was a catalyst. She was a mirror and she was a safe landing. And she wasn't ever petty. She never punished me. And it was never performative because there was still patience left. We didn't have contempt for each other. And I think that gave me room to rise to the occasion, but I had to do that work. But not everyone has a Paige. I understand that. And not everyone, this sounds cringy as shit, but not everyone's going to do what I did either. And I don't think I'm special. I don't think I'm unique in the slightest. I think that what I did is possible for every single man, woman, and child that wants it. It's an equal opportunity for everyone. It's just, are you willing to do the work? And that's what it looked like for us. But in part 2 of this, I'm going to cover things I wish more women knew. Again, I don't know when Paige is going to be back. Short hiatus, however she feels. And again, she's allowed to heal on her terms and her time. And so whenever that is, in the meantime, I hope that I don't let you down too much and that you still enjoy the podcast and our content, and you will still get Paige on Fridays for Paige's Perspective, which are amazing. I love those. They help me still. I live with the woman and they still help me. I hear this stuff all the time and it's still helpful. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for being part of our show. We're coming up on 3 years this September. So next month we'll have 3 years. We'll have to find a way to celebrate that. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff in the works behind the scenes. More partnerships, bigger partnerships. We didn't get our workshop done this summer. Things changed a little bit, but we will have some come up. A meetup this fall, I think would be really, really cool too. Would love to just get everyone together. I'd love to meet everyone that listens. Couples, individuals, get the kids together, everyone. That would be so cool. I already have a place in mind. That would be awesome. So thanks for being on this ride with us. We hope that we can continue to deliver for you guys. We hope that we can continue to be the voice that you deserve. And again, I'm not sure that I'm the most qualified for this, but damn it, now that we've found ourselves here, we're going to fucking try, aren't we? So thanks for joining me. Thanks for spending time with me. Until next time, I am Matt. She is Paige, and she's just right in there. And we'll see you.